Gyani and the world, according to Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharishi. Devotee asked, is the world perceived by the Gyani? Maharishi said, from whom is the question? Is it from a Gyani or a Gyani? Devotee asked, from an Agyani, I admit. Maharishi said, is it the world that seeks to decide the issue about its reality? The doubt arises in you. Know in the first instance who the doubter is, and then you may consider if the world is real or not. Devotee asked, the Agyani sees and knows the world and its objects, which affect his senses of touch, taste, etc. Does the Gyani experience the world in like manner? Maharishi said, you talk of seeing and knowing the world, but without knowing yourself, the knowing subject, without whom there is no knowledge of the object. How can you know the true nature of the world, the known object? No doubt the objects affect the body and the sense organs, but is it to your body that the question arises? Does the body say, I feel the object, it is real? Or is it the world that says to you, I, the world, am real? Devotee asked, I am only trying to understand the Gyani's point of view about the world. Is the world perceived after self realization? Maharshi said, why worry yourself about the world and what happens to it after self realization? First realize the self. What does it matter if the world is perceived or not? Do you gain anything to help you in your quest by the non perception of the world during sleep? Conversely, what would you lose now by the perception of the world? It is quite immaterial to the Gyani or Agyani if he perceives the world or not. It is seen by both, but their viewpoints differ. Devotee asked, if the Gyani and the Agyani perceive the world in like manner, where is the difference between them? Maharishi said, seeing the world, the Gyani sees the self, which is the substratum of all that is seen. The Agyani, whether he sees the world or not, is ignorant of his true being, the self. Take the instance of moving pictures on the screen in the cinema show. What is there in front of you before play begins? Merely the screen. On the screen, you see the entire show, and for all appearances, the pictures are real. But go and try to take hold of them. What do you take hold of? Merely the screen on which the pictures appeared so real. After the play, when the pictures disappear, what remains? The screen again. So with the self that alone exists. The pictures come and go. If you hold on to the self, you will not be deceived by the appearance of the pictures, nor does it matter at all if the pictures appear or disappear. Ignoring the self, the Agyani thinks the world is real, just as ignoring the screen, he sees merely the pictures as if they existed apart from it. If one knows that without the seer there is nothing to be seen, just as there are no pictures without the screen, one is not deluded. The Gyani knows that the screen, the pictures, and the sight thereof are but the self. With the pictures, the self is in its manifest form. Without the pictures, it remains in the unmanifest form. To the Gyani, it is quite immaterial if the self is in the one form or the other. He is always the self, but the Agyani, seeing the Gyani active, gets confounded. Devotee, it is just that point that prompted me to put my first question whether one has to realize the self perceives the world as we do, and if he does, I should like to know how Sri Bhagwan felt about the mysterious disappearance of the photo yesterday. Maharshi said, "You are referring to the photo of the Madura temple. A few minutes earlier, it was passing through the hands of the visitors. You looked at it in turn. Evidently, it was mislaid among the pages of some book or other that they were consulting." Devotee asked, "Yes, it was that incident. How does Bhagwan view it?" There was an anxious search for the photo, which in the end could not be found. How does Bhagwan view the mysterious disappearance of the photo just at the moment when it was wanted? Maharishi said, "Suppose you dream that you are taking me to your distant country, Poland. You wake up and ask me, 'I dreamt so and so. Did you also have some such dream or know in some other way that I was taking you to Poland?' What significance will you attach to such an inquiry?" Devotee asked, "But with regard to the missing photo, the whole incident took place in front of Sri Bhagwan." Maharishi said, "The seeing of the photo, its disappearance, as well as your present inquiry are all mere workings of mind. There is a story in the Puranas which illustrates the point. When Sita was missing from the forest hermitage, Rama went about in search of her, wailing, 'O Sita, Sita.' It is said that Parvati and Parmeshwara saw from above what was taking place in the forest. Parvati expressed her surprise to Shiva and said, 'You praised Rama as the perfect being. See how he behaves and grieves at the loss of Sita.' Shiva replied, 'If you are skeptical about Rama's perfection, then put him to the test yourself. Through your Yog Maya, transform yourself into the likeness of Sita and appear before him.' Parvati did so. She appeared before Rama in the very likeness of Sita, but to her astonishment, Rama ignored her presence and went on as before, calling out, 'O Sita, O Sita,' as if he were blind. Devotee asked, 'I am unable to grasp the moral of the story.' Maharishi said, 'If Rama were really searching for the bodily presence of Sita, he would have recognized the person who was standing in front of him as the Sita he had lost. But no, the missing Sita was just as unreal as the Sita that appeared before his eyes. Rama was not really blind, but to Rama the Gyani, the prior being of Sita in the hermitage, her disappearance, his consequent search for her, as well as the actual presence of Parvati in the guise of Sita, were all equally unreal. Do you understand how the missing photo was viewed?" Devotee asked, "I cannot say it is all clear to me. Is the world that is seen, felt, and sensed by us in so many ways something like dream and illusion?" Maharishi said, "There is no alternative for you but to accept the world as unreal, if you are seeking the truth and the truth alone." Devotee asked, "Why so?" Maharishi said, "For the simple reason that unless you give up the idea that the world is real, your mind will always be after it. If you take the appearance to be real, you will never know the real itself, although it is real alone that exists." The point is illustrated by the analogy of the snake and the rope. As long as you see the snake, you cannot see the rope as such. The non-existent snake become real to you, while the real rope seems wholly non-existent as such. Devotee, it is easy to accept tentatively that the world is not ultimately real, but it is hard to have the conviction that it is really unreal. Maharishi said, even so, in your dream world real, while you are dreaming, so long as the dream lasts, everything you see and feel therein is real. Devotee asked, is then the world nothing better than a dream? Maharishi said, what is wrong with the sense of reality you have while you are dreaming? You may be dreaming of something quite impossible, for instance, of having a happy chat with a dead person. Just for a moment, you may doubt in the dream, saying to yourself, was he not dead? But somehow your mind reconciles itself to the dream vision, and the person is as good as alive for the purposes of the per- of the dream. In other words, the dream as a dream doesn't permit you to doubt its reality. Even so, you are unable to doubt the reality of the world of your wakeful experience. How can the mind, which has itself created the world, accept it as unreal? That is the significance of the comparison made between the world of wakeful experience and the dream world. Both are but creations of the mind, and so long as the mind is engrossed in either, it finds itself unable to deny the reality of the dream world while dreaming and the end of the waking world while awake. If, on the contrary, withdraw your mind completely from the world and turn it within and abide thus, that is, if you keep awake always to the self, which is the substratum of all experience, you will find the world of which alone you are now aware just as unreal as the world in which you lived in your dream. Devotee asked, as I said before, we see, feel, and sense the world in so many ways. These sensations are the reactions to the object seen, felt, etc., and are not mental creations as in dreams, which differ not only from person to person but also with regard to the same person. Is that not enough to prove the objective reality of the world? Maharishi said, all this talk about inconsistencies and their attribution to the dream world arises only now when you are awake. While you were dreaming, the dream was perfectly integrated whole. That is to say, if you felt thirsty in a dream, the illusory drinking of illusory water did quench your illusory thirst, but all this was real and not illusory to you as long as you did not know that the dream itself was illusory. Similarly, with the waking world and the sensations you now have got get coordinated to give you the impression that the world is real. If, on the contrary, the world is a self existent reality, that is what you evidently mean by its objectivity. What prevents the world from revealing itself to you in sleep? You do not say you have not existed in your sleep. Devotee asked, neither do I deny the world's existence while I am asleep. It has been existing all the while. If during my sleep I did not see it, others, why, who are not sleeping, saw it. Maharishi said, to say you existed while asleep, was it necessary to call in the evidence of others so as to prove it to you? Why do you seek their evidence now? Those others can tell you of having seen the world during your sleep only when you yourself are awake. With regard to your own existence, it is different. On waking up, you say you had a sound sleep, so that to what extent you are aware of yourself in the deepest sleep, whereas you have not the slightest notion of the world's existence then. Even now, while you are awake, it is the world that says, I am real. Or is it to you? Is it you? Devotee asked. Of course I say it, but I say it of the world. Maharishi said, well, then that world which you say is really mocking you for seeking to prove its reality while of your own reality you are ignorant. You want somehow or other to maintain that the world is real. What is the standard of reality? The alone is real, which exists by itself, which reveals itself by itself, and which is eternal and unchanging. Does the world exist by itself? Was it ever seen without the aid of the mind? In sleep, there is neither mind nor world. When awake, there is the mind and there is the world. What does this invariable concomitance mean? You are familiar with the principles of inductive logic, which are considered the very basis of scientific investigation. Why do you not decide the question of the reality of the world in the light of those accepted principles of logic of yourself? You can say, I exist, that is, yours is not mere existence, it is existence of which you are conscious. Really, it is existence identical with consciousness. Devotee asked, the world may not be conscious of itself, yet it exists. Maharishi said, consciousness is always self consciousness. If you are conscious of anything, you are essentially conscious of yourself. Unless conscious existence is a contradiction in terms, it is no existence at all. It is merely attributed existence, whereas true existence, the Sat, is not an attribute, it is the substance itself. It is the Vastu. Reality is therefore known as Satchit, being consciousness, and never merely the one to the exclusion of the other. The world neither exists by itself nor is it conscious of its existence. How can you say that such a world is real? And what is the nature of the world? It is perpetual change, a continuous, interminable flux, a dependent, unself conscious, ever changing world cannot be real. Devotee asked, not only does Western empirical science consider the world real, but the Vedas give elaborate cosmological descriptions of the world and its origin. Why should they do so if the world is unreal? Maharishi said, the essential purpose of the Vedas is to teach you the nature of the imperishable Atma and to declare with authority, thou art there. Devotee, I accept, but why should they give cosmological descriptions spun out at great length unless they consider the world real? Maharishi said, adopt in practice what you accept in theory and leave the rest. The Shastras have to guide every type of seeker after truth, and all are not of the same mental makeup. What you cannot accept, treat as Arthvada or auxiliary arguments. Hari Om Tat Sat.